I've been paying my mother's rent for 5 years. They own the building. The property records office smells like old paper and broken dreams. I'm sitting here at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, staring at a document that's turned my entire world upside down. The clerk's words keep echoing in my head. Oh yes, that building's been owned by Margaret and Dennis Chin since 2018. Margaret Chin. My mother. Dennis Chin. My stepfather. The same Margaret who calls me every month like clockwork, voice trembling as she explains how tight money is, how the landlord might raise the rent again, how she doesn't know what she'd do without my help. The same woman I've been sending $1,200 to every single month for the past 5 years because I couldn't bear the thought of my mom being evicted. My hands are shaking as I photograph the property deed with my phone. There it is in black and white, 847, Maple Street, a 12-unit apartment building, purchased for $340,000 in March 2018. Current estimated value, $890,000. I know that address by heart. I've sent probably 200 money transfers to that exact address. The math is hitting me like a sledgehammer. 60 months. $1,200 each month. $72,000. $72,000 I've sent to help my struggling mother pay rent on a building she owns. I scroll through my banking app with trembling fingers, looking at transaction after transaction. Rent help for mom. Mom's rent, March. Emergency rent assistance. The descriptions I wrote myself, like a fool, documenting my own exploitation. The worst part? I believed every word of it. 3 weeks ago, Mom called crying because the landlord wanted to raise her rent by $200. I was in the middle of getting pre-approved for my own mortgage, finally ready to buy my first place after years of saving, but I immediately offered to cover the increase. You're such a good son, Tyler, she sobbed. I don't know what I'd do without you. A good son. Right. I remember the exact moment I got suspicious. Last Sunday, I decided to surprise Mom with groceries and drove to her building. I was walking up to the front entrance when Mrs. Rodriguez from 3B stopped me. Sweet elderly lady who's lived there for 15 years. Tyler. So nice to see you again. You know, you should tell your mother that the new flowers she planted in the courtyard look beautiful. She's such a wonderful landlord. Landlord. The word hit me like ice water. I laughed it off, told Mrs. Rodriguez she must be confused, that Mom was just a tenant like everyone else. But the way she looked at me, puzzled, almost concerned, made something click. When I got upstairs, I asked Mom about it casually. Mrs. Rodriguez said something funny about you being the landlord. Mom's face went white for just a second before she forced a laugh. Oh, you know how confused she gets at her age. Poor thing probably mixes up all the tenants. But I saw it. That flash of panic. So here I am, 3 hours deep in public records, and it's all true. Every horrifying detail. They don't just own Mom's building. They own 3 others. Dennis's construction company has been buying properties for years, fixing them up, and renting them out. My mother isn't struggling, she's wealthy. They're sitting on over $2 million in real estate, and I've been subsidizing their empire while eating ramen for dinner and putting off my own life. The family reunion is in 6 days. Time to burn it all down. I can't concentrate on anything. It's been 3 days since the property records office, and I've barely slept. Every time I close my eyes, I see that deed with my mother's signature, bold and confident, nothing like the shaky handwriting of someone supposedly stressed about money. I've been digging deeper, and it's so much worse than I thought. Last night, I drove by their other properties. 1247, Oak Street, a beautiful Victorian they converted into 4 high-end apartments. The rent signs in the windows show $1,800 to $2,200 per unit. Then there's 89, Pine Avenue, 6 units ranging from $1,400 to $1,700. And 423, Riverside Drive, their crown jewel, a restored 1920s building with 8 luxury apartments starting at $2,500. I sat in my beat-up Honda Civic, calculating. Conservatively, they're pulling in over $30,000 a month in rental income. $30,000. While I've been living off grocery store brand everything and haven't bought new clothes in 2 years because I was helping family. The betrayal is eating me alive, but what's worse is how stupid I feel. All those late-night phone calls where Mom would cry about the electric bill being too high. The time she called sobbing because she needed $800 for emergency car repairs, on top of my usual $1,200, and I borrowed money from my credit card to help her. My credit card. At 23% interest. For a woman who owns 4 buildings. I pulled my phone records this morning. Mom has called me 247 times in the past year. I counted. 247 guilt trips disguised as loving mother-son conversations. Tyler, honey, I hate to bother you, but... became the soundtrack of my life. The worst call was 8 months ago, right after I got promoted to senior developer. I was so excited to tell her about my raise, thinking maybe I could finally start helping her more substantially. Before I could even share my good news, she launched into this heartbreaking story about how the landlord was threatening eviction, how she'd been skipping meals to save money, how Dennis was working double shifts but it still wasn't enough. I hung up and immediately increased my monthly payment from $1,000 to $1,200. Permanently. She played me like a fucking violin. Today I called my bank to get detailed records of every transfer. Carla, my usual teller, was chatty as always. Oh, the money for your mom. You're such a devoted son, Tyler. My daughter moved across the country and barely calls, let alone helps with bills. Yeah, well, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, family takes care of family, right? Absolutely. Though I have to say, you've been so consistent. Same amount, same day every month for, goodness, has it really been 5 years? That's $72,000 you've sent her. She raised a good one. $72,000. Hearing it from someone else made it real in a way that seeing the number on my screen didn't. That's a house down payment. That's a wedding. That's starting the family I've been putting off because I can't afford it yet. I've been sitting in my apartment, my shitty one-bedroom apartment with a broken dishwasher and a heater that sounds like a dying walrus, staring at my laptop screen. I've typed and deleted a dozen confrontational emails to Mom. Part of me wants to call her right now and scream. Part of me wants to show up at her door with printed property records and watch her try to explain. But the family reunion is in 3 days. Aunt Linda, Uncle Mike, all my cousins, people who've heard for years about how I'm such a good son for helping Mom through hard times. People who have no idea they're about to watch me detonate a bomb in the middle of our family. I keep thinking about what Mrs. Rodriguez said about the flowers Mom planted. She's been playing landlord while playing victim. The performance ends Sunday. I made a mistake tonight. A big one. I called Jessica. Jessica's my ex from 2 years ago. We dated for 3 years and broke up because I wasn't ready to commit. That's what I told her, anyway. The truth was I couldn't afford to commit. Between helping Mom and barely scraping by on what was left of my salary, I couldn't even think about engagement rings or weddings or the future Jessica deserved. Tyler. She sounded surprised when she picked up. Is everything okay? It's almost midnight. I should have hung up. Instead, I word vomited the entire story. The rent payments, the property records, the lies, everything. Jessica listened in complete silence until I finished. Wait, she said finally. Tyler, are you telling me that the entire time we were together, when you said you couldn't afford to move in together because you were helping your struggling mother, she was actually rich? The way she said it made my stomach drop. Jess, I didn't know. Remember our fight last Christmas? When I suggested we get a place together and you said you couldn't because your mom needed you. I felt so guilty for being jealous of your sick mother that I didn't push it. Christ. I'd forgotten about that fight. Jessica had found this perfect little duplex, nothing fancy but clean and bright with a decent kitchen. She'd been so excited, showing me pictures on her phone. When I explained I couldn't afford my half because Mom's rent had gone up again, Jessica went quiet for a long time. Your mother wasn't sick, Tyler. She was scamming you. And by extension, she destroyed our relationship. Jessica, please, Do you know what I thought when you chose sending money to your mom over building a life with me? I thought you were the most caring, selfless person I'd ever met. I thought I was dating someone who valued family above everything, even his own happiness. Her voice was getting harder. I broke up with my previous boyfriend because he was selfish. Then I fell in love with someone being exploited by his own mother, and I was too stupid to see it. The line went quiet except for her breathing. Jess. I need to go, Tyler. This is really fucked up. I'm sorry this happened to you, but I can't process this right now. She hung up. I'm sitting here at 2 a.m., and it's hitting me that Mom didn't just steal my money. She stole 5 years of my life. Every decision I made, every opportunity one passed up, every relationship I sabotaged, it was all based on a lie. 2 hours after Jessica hung up, my cousin Derek texted me. Hey man, can't wait to see you Sunday. Mom said your mom and Dennis just got back from their cruise to Alaska. Those pics on Facebook looked amazing. That ship looked expensive as hell, lol. A cruise to Alaska. I immediately opened Facebook and found Mom's profile. There they are, 43 photos from their relaxing getaway. Mom and Dennis grinning on the deck of some luxury liner, fancy dinners, excursions to glaciers, professional photos in formal wear. The cruise was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, Mom called me crying about potentially being evicted. The comments under her photos are making me nauseous. Aunt Linda, you too deserve this after working so hard. Uncle Mike, living your best life. So happy for you. Cousin Sarah, goals. Hope Dennis's construction business keeps doing well. His construction business keeps doing well. Of course everyone knows about their success. Everyone except the idiot's son who's been bankrolling their lifestyle. I screenshotted every single photo. The reunion is in 48 hours. I'm not just exposing them anymore. I'm ending them. I couldn't sleep last night, so I did something I probably shouldn't have. I drove to Mom's building at 3 a.m. and sat in the parking lot, just staring at the windows. Her unit, 4A, was dark, but I could see light coming from the first floor office that I'd never paid attention to before. There was a small sign by the door that I'd walked past hundreds of times, Building Management, MND Property Solutions, available 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. MND, Margaret and Dennis. They've been running their property management business out of the same building where I thought Mom was struggling to pay rent. I've probably walked past that sign 2 dozen times, and it never registered. Why would it? I was just the dutiful son visiting his poor mother. This morning I called MND Property Solutions, disguising my voice slightly and pretending to be interested in renting. The woman who answered was cheerful and professional. MND Properties, this is Margaret speaking, how can I help you? Margaret. My mother's voice, but different. Confident. Businesslike. Nothing like the shaky, worried tone she uses when she calls me for money. Hi, I'm looking for a 1-bedroom apartment, something in the $1,400 to $1,600 range. Oh wonderful. We have several options. Are you familiar with our buildings? We own 4 properties around town, all recently renovated to high standards. High standards. Renovated with my fucking money. That sounds perfect. How long have you been in business? Well, my husband and I started the company 6 years ago, but we've been really expanding over the last 5 years. Business has been fantastic, we're actually looking at purchasing a 5th property next month. 5 years. The exact time frame I've been sending her money. She's been using my rent payments as startup capital for her real estate empire. What kind of screening process do you have for tenants? Very thorough. We run credit checks, verify employment, require first month, last month, and security deposit up front. We found that attracts higher quality renters who actually appreciate nice properties. The irony was suffocating. She demands financial responsibility from her tenants while scamming her own son. And if someone falls behind on rent? Mom's voice got harder. We don't tolerate that. 3-day notice, then eviction proceedings. We're running a business, not a charity. Not a charity. The woman who calls me sobbing about being evicted doesn't tolerate late rent from her own tenants. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. But I wasn't done. I spent the morning calling each of their buildings, asking to speak to tenants about what it was like living there. Mrs. Rodriguez from Mom's building was happy to chat. "Oh, Margaret's wonderful," she gushed. "Very responsive to maintenance requests, keeps the buildings immaculate. And she's so successful, did you know she owns 4 buildings now? Her son helps with the business too." My blood froze. Her son. Tyler, lovely boy. He's some kind of computer expert who helps fund their renovations. Margaret's so proud of how supportive he is of their real estate investments. She's been telling people I'm a business partner. Not a victim, not someone she's lying to, a willing participant in their success. She's been bragging about scamming me to her own tenants. The reunion is tomorrow. I printed everything, property records, bank statements, screenshots of the cruise photos, even a transcript I made of this morning's phone call where she talked about expanding their business. But now I'm wondering if exposing them publicly is enough. This isn't just fraud, it's systematic, calculated theft. They've stolen 5 years of my life and $72,000 of my future, and Mom's been spinning it as some kind of family business partnership. I think I need a lawyer. The reunion will destroy them socially, but I want my money back. All of it. With interest. The performance ends tomorrow, but the real consequences are just beginning. The lawyer's office smells like leather and disappointment. I'm sitting across from Patricia Manning, Esquire, watching her flip through the stack of evidence I brought. Property deeds, bank statements, screenshots of Mom's cruise photos, the recording I made of yesterday's phone call to MND Properties. "This is fraud," she says finally, looking up at me with sharp gray eyes. "Textbook wire fraud, actually. Your mother has been using false pretenses to obtain money through electronic transfers across state lines. Patricia is my coworker Dave's divorce attorney, and she agreed to see me on short notice after he told her my story. She's been practicing for 20 years and has the kind of no-bullshit energy that makes me feel like maybe I'm not crazy. What kind of damages are we looking at?" I ask. "Well, there's the principal amount, $72,000. Then we can argue for interest, emotional distress, and potentially punitive damages. We could be looking at $150,000 or more, depending on how aggressive we want to get." The number makes my head spin. More money than I've ever had in my bank account. "But here's what you need to understand," Patricia continues, "this will get ugly. Family fraud cases always do. If we pursue this criminally, which we absolutely could, your mother could face federal charges. Wire fraud carries up to 20 years in prison. 20 years. I try to picture Mom in an orange jumpsuit and can't do it. However, Patricia says, there's something else you should know. I ran a preliminary asset search on your mother and stepfather this morning." She slides a paper across the desk. It's a financial report showing bank accounts, property values, and something that makes my stomach drop. They're leveraged to the hilt, Tyler. Those 4 buildings. They're mortgaged at about 85% of their value. The Alaska cruise, the renovations, their lifestyle, they're funding it all with debt. Your $1,200 a month wasn't just padding their income. It was probably covering their mortgage payments. I stare at the numbers. So they actually needed my money. They needed it, but not for the reasons they told you. They weren't poor tenants struggling with rent. They were real estate investors who overextended themselves and used you as a private bank to cover their cash flow problems. Somehow this feels worse than if they'd just been greedy. They turned me into an unknowing business partner while lying about everything. Patricia's phone buzzes. She glances at it and frowns. "Tyler, this is interesting. I set up a Google alert for your mother's name after you left yesterday, just to see if anything popped up. Look at this." She shows me her phone. It's a local news website with a headline that makes my blood run cold. "Local property management company wins Small Business of the Year award." There's a photo of Mom and Dennis holding a plaque, both beaming at the camera. The article is dated yesterday, one day before the family reunion. Margaret and Dennis Chen of MND Property Solutions were recognized for their outstanding growth and community impact. The company has expanded from 1 property to 4 over the past 5 years, renovating buildings and providing quality housing throughout the city. The article goes on to quote Mom, "We're so grateful for this recognition. Building this business has been a family effort. We couldn't have done it without the support of loved ones who believed in our vision." Support of loved ones. My support. My $72,000 in belief. There's more, Patricia says, scrolling down. They're being featured in next month's Chamber of Commerce newsletter as an example of bootstrap entrepreneurship. The interview talks about how they built their empire from the ground up through hard work and sacrifice. I feel like I'm going to be sick. Tomorrow at the reunion, people will probably congratulate them on this award. They'll talk about how proud they are of Mom and Dennis's success. Meanwhile, I'll be standing there knowing that their bootstrap entrepreneurship was funded by lies told to their own son. "Patricia," I say quietly, "I want to file everything. Criminal fraud, civil suit, all of it." She nods slowly. "We can file Monday morning. But Tyler, once we do this, there's no going back. Your relationship with your mother will be over." I think about Jessica's voice on the phone. About 5 years of ramen dinners and delayed dreams. About Mrs. Rodriguez calling me a business partner in my own exploitation. It's already over, I tell her. She just doesn't know it yet. The reunion is in 18 hours. I'm sitting in my car outside the community center at 11:47 a.m., watching my relatives stream into the building for what they think will be a normal family reunion. Aunt Linda's carrying her famous potato salad. Uncle Mike's wrestling with a cooler full of beer. My cousin Sarah's kids are running around the parking lot in their Sunday clothes. They have no idea what's about to happen. My phone buzzes. A text from Mom, "Tyler honey, are you coming today? I can't wait to see you. Dennis and I have some exciting news to share with everyone's smiling face with smiling eyes." Exciting news. Probably about their Small Business of the Year award. Or maybe they're announcing the 5th property they mentioned buying. More success built on my financial bones. I text back, on my way. I have some news to share too. The manila folder on my passenger seat feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. Property deeds, bank statements, screenshots of cruise photos, the business award article I printed this morning. Patricia helped me organize everything last night into what she called a comprehensive fraud portfolio. But there's something else in there now. Something I discovered at 6 a.m. that made me realize this situation is even worse than I thought. I couldn't sleep, so I started going through Mom's Facebook more carefully. Hidden in her photos from 18 months ago, I found something that made my hands shake, pictures of Dennis's 40th birthday party. Not just any party, a massive celebration at some upscale restaurant with what looks like 50 people, professional decorations, catered food, champagne toasts. The date stamp was March 15, 2022. I remember that week perfectly because Mom called me on March 17th, sobbing about how they couldn't afford groceries and asking if I could send an extra $400 on top of my usual payment. She said Dennis had been laid off and they were eating peanut butter sandwiches for dinner. Laid off. While throwing champagne parties that probably cost more than I make in a month. I scrolled through every comment on those party photos. Best party ever. You guys know how to celebrate. Dennis deserves this after such a successful year. Successful year. The same year she told me his construction business was failing. But the comment that made me want to put my fist through my windshield was from my cousin Derek. Thanks for inviting the whole family. Mom's still talking about that band you hired face with tears of joy. The whole family. Everyone was there. Everyone except me. They threw a massive party, invited every relative we have, and I wasn't included. Why? Because I would have seen their wealth on full display. I would have started asking questions about how two supposedly broke people could afford live entertainment and premium open bars. They've been living dual lives. Successful business owners to everyone else, struggling tenants to me. And they've been so careful about it that they've excluded me from family events just to maintain the lie. My phone rings. It's Mom. Tyler. Honey, where are you? Everyone's asking about you. I'm in the parking lot, I say, surprised by how calm my voice sounds. Mom, quick question, how was Dennis's 40th birthday party last year? Dead silence. I can practically hear her brain scrambling. What party, sweetie? We couldn't afford to do anything special. Remember, that was right after Dennis got laid off. She's still lying. Even now, even when she has to know I've figured something out, she's still lying to my face. I'll be right in, I tell her. I hang up, grab the folder, and walk toward the community center. Through the windows, I can see my family laughing, eating, kids playing. Normal Sunday afternoon stuff. In about 10 minutes, none of this will be normal anymore. Time to crash the party I was never invited to. The community center erupts in cheers the moment I walk through the door. Aunt Linda practically tackles me with a hug, Uncle Mike shoves a beer in my hand, and 3 different cousins start talking at once about jobs, relationships, and weekend plans. Normal family chaos. But then I see Mom across the room, and everything else fades to background noise. She's holding court near the dessert table, animated and glowing, telling some story that has everyone laughing. She's wearing a dress I've never seen before, something expensive looking in deep blue that fits perfectly. Her jewelry catches the light as she gestures, and I realize I haven't seen her look this confident and put together in years. Because this is who she really is. Not the struggling single mom from our phone calls, but Margaret Chen, successful businesswoman. The woman who just won Small Business of the Year. Tyler. Derek bounds over, grinning. Dude, have you heard Mom's big news? I grip my manila folder tighter. Not yet. She and Dennis just bought another building. Their 5th one. And they got some huge award from the Chamber of Commerce. Mom's basically a real estate mogul now. Their 5th building, I repeat slowly. Yeah, man, it's crazy how successful they've gotten. Remember when we were kids and Mom was always stressed about money? Now she's like, actually wealthy. Good for her, you know. Derek keeps talking, but I'm not listening anymore. I'm watching Mom notice me from across the room. Her face lights up with what looks like genuine joy, and she starts weaving through the crowd toward me. Tyler. My wonderful son. She reaches me and pulls me into a hug that smells like expensive perfume. Everyone, look who finally made it. The family gathers around us, and I feel like I'm watching this happen to someone else. Mom's arm is around my waist, squeezing me tight like she always does. For a second, muscle memory kicks in and I almost relax into it. This is my mom. The woman who made me soup when I was sick, who came to every soccer game, who taught me to drive in the Walmart parking lot. So Tyler, Aunt Linda says, your mom was just telling us about the new property they bought. A historic building downtown that they're converting to luxury apartments. Sounds like business is booming. All eyes are on me, expectant and smiling. Mom's grip on my waist tightens slightly. Business is definitely interesting, I manage. Oh, Tyler's being modest, Mom laughs, and there's something sharp in her voice now. He's been such a huge part of our success. Haven't you, honey? She's looking right at me, and I see something I've never seen in her eyes before. Fear. She knows I know something. Maybe not everything, but something. Actually, Mom, I was hoping we could talk about that. About my involvement in your business success. The family's still smiling, but Mom's face goes a shade paler under her makeup. Of course, sweetheart. Later, though. Let's just enjoy the reunion for now. No, I say, louder than I intended. Let's talk about it now. The conversations around us start to fade as people pick up on the tension. Derek looks confused. Aunt Linda glances back and forth between Mom and me like she's watching a tennis match. Uncle Mike clears his throat. Everything okay, Tyler? I look around at all these faces, people I love, people who've known me my whole life, people who have no idea they're about to watch me destroy everything. Actually, Uncle Mike, I'm not sure it is. I open the manila folder. Mom, since you mentioned my involvement in your business success, maybe everyone would like to hear about how I've contributed exactly $72,000 over the past 5 years. The number lands like a grenade in the middle of our family circle. Aunt Linda's mouth falls open. Derek's beer stops halfway to his lips. Tyler, Mom says quickly, maybe we should. No, let me finish. I pull out the first document. See, everyone thinks I'm just a supportive son. But the truth is, I've been an unwitting investor in M&D Property Solutions since 2019. Uncle Mike frowns. What do you mean, unwitting? Well, Uncle Mike, I thought I was helping my struggling mother pay rent. Turns out I was actually funding the down payments on 4 different buildings. I hold up a property deed. Including the one she supposedly rents. The silence is deafening. I can hear kids laughing in the bounce house outside, completely oblivious to the family implosion happening 10 feet away. Dennis appears at Mom's shoulder like he materialized from thin air. Tyler, son, I think there might be some confusion. Oh, there's definitely confusion, Dennis. Like how Mom called me crying 3 weeks ago about potential eviction, but according to Facebook, you two were on a luxury cruise to Alaska that same week. I pull out printed screenshots of their cruise photos. The one of them informal where at the captain's dinner gets passed around the circle like evidence in a murder trial. Cousin Sarah stares at the photo, then looks at Mom. Aunt Maggie, didn't you call my mom last month asking to borrow money for groceries? The circle widens as more relatives drift over, sensing drama. This is exactly what I wanted, and exactly what I'm terrified of. Tyler, please, Mom whispers, and for a second she sounds like the vulnerable woman from our phone calls. Can we discuss this privately? Privately. Like how you privately told Mrs. Rodriguez that I'm your business partner. Or how you privately excluded me from Dennis's 40th birthday party so I wouldn't see how much money you actually have. Aunt Linda gasps. Tyler wasn't at the party. But we thought. You thought what? I'm spiraling now, but I can't stop. That I was busy. That I had other plans. I wasn't invited because Mom couldn't risk me seeing her real life. The crowd is growing. Someone's shushing the kids. Someone else is frantically texting, probably calling relatives who couldn't make it to let them know they're missing the show of the century. Dennis tries a different approach. Look, Tyler, business got complicated, and maybe we didn't communicate. Communicate? I laugh, and it comes out harsh and bitter. Dennis, yesterday I called your business pretending to be a potential tenant. Mom answered the phone as Margaret from M&D Properties and told me about expanding to a 5th building. Same day she texted me worried about making rent. Uncle Mike is studying the property documents now. He owns a small accounting firm, knows how to read financial records. His face is getting redder by the second. Margaret, he says slowly, these properties are worth almost $3 million combined. It's not that simple, Mom starts. And Tyler, Uncle Mike continues, looking at my bank statements, you've been sending them $1,200 every month like clockwork. He looks up at Mom with disgust. While telling everyone your son is such a saint for helping you through hard times. The circle has become a full crowd now. 20+ relatives, all staring at Mom and Dennis like they're exhibits in a zoo. Mom's perfect makeup is starting to run. Tyler, you're destroying our family. No, Mom. You destroyed it 5 years ago. I'm just letting everyone else know. The words hit me like a physical blow. I'm destroying our family. Before I can respond, Cousin Derek steps forward, his face flushed with anger. Wait, hold up. Tyler, are you saying that when Aunt Maggie called my mom last Christmas asking for help with her heating bill, she was lying? What heating bill? I ask, though I'm afraid I already know. Derek's mom, my Aunt Carol, pushes through the crowd, looking mortified. She said her heat got shut off and she needed $600 to get it reconnected. Said she was too embarrassed to ask you because you'd already done so much. The folder almost slips from my hands. She asked you for money too. And me, comes a voice from the back. My cousin Jennifer raises her hand like she's in school. $800 for car repairs last spring. She said Dennis was out of work and they couldn't afford to fix their van. Jesus Christ, Uncle Mike mutters, flipping through more of my documents. Jennifer, that's the same time period Tyler's bank records show they bought the 3rd building. More voices start chiming in. Aunt Linda, she borrowed $400 from me in June for prescription medicine. Cousin Mark, $300 for groceries in August. Even quiet Aunt Ruth admits to sending $250 for utilities. I'm doing math in my head, and it's staggering. While I was sending $1,200 monthly, Mom was running individual scams on half our family. We're looking at thousands and thousands of additional dollars. How much? I ask the crowd. Everyone who gave her money, shout out the amount. Tyler, stop this, Mom pleads, but the numbers are flying now. 600. 400. 800. 250. I'm adding frantically. That's at least $4,000 from the family, just from what people are admitting to. And that's on top of my $72,000. Uncle Mike looks like he wants to hit something. Margaret, you've been systematically defrauding your own family while building a real estate empire. Dennis finally finds his voice. Now wait just a minute. No, Dennis, you wait. This from my grandfather, who's been silent in his wheelchair by the wall. At 87, Grandpa Joe doesn't speak often, but when he does, everyone listens. Margaret, I gave you $5,000 2 years ago when you said you might lose your apartment. $5,000. From a man on a fixed Social Security income. The community center has gone dead silent. Even the kids outside seem to have stopped playing. That money, Grandpa Joe continues, his voice shaking with rage, was from your grandmother's life insurance policy. Money I was saving for my final expenses. You told me you were desperate, that Tyler was doing what he could but it wasn't enough. Mom is openly crying now, mascara streaming down her cheeks. Dad, I was going to pay everyone back. With what? Uncle Mike snaps. Your financial records show you're leveraged beyond belief. You've been using family money to service debt on properties you couldn't afford. Aunt Linda suddenly looks stricken. Oh my God. Maggie, when you asked me for money for prescriptions. I felt so guilty because I'd just gotten back from vacation in Florida. I thought I was being selfish spending money on myself while you couldn't afford medicine. And I canceled our anniversary trip, cousin Mark adds, looking sick. Couldn't justify the expense when family was struggling. The full scope of mom's manipulation is coming into focus. She hasn't just been stealing money, she's been stealing experiences, memories, opportunities from people who love her. How many family members put their own lives on hold to fund her lies? Dennis tries once more. Look, everybody just needs to calm down. Dennis, I say, pulling out my phone, should I play the recording of yesterday's call where mom told me about expanding to a fifth property? Or should I skip straight to the part where she said she's not running a charity when it comes to late rent from her tenants? The crowd turns to stare at mom with something approaching horror. She's not just a fraud. She's a hypocrite who demands financial responsibility from strangers while bleeding her own family dry. The reunion is officially over. The aftermath of my revelation spreads through the community center like wildfire. Small groups have formed, some huddled around the documents I've spread across the dessert table, others comforting crying relatives who are just now realizing how they've been manipulated. The cheerful family reunion decorations suddenly feel obscene against the backdrop of financial devastation. But mom isn't done fighting. You want to know the truth, she says, her voice cutting through the murmur of shocked conversations. The tears have stopped, and something harder has taken their place. Fine. Yes, we own buildings. Yes, business has been good. But Tyler, you have no idea what it costs to maintain 4 properties. She's actually doubling down. In front of our entire family. Margaret, Uncle Mike warns, but she ignores him. Do you know what we spent on renovations last year alone? $60,000. New roofs, updated electrical, ADA compliance modifications. That cruise everyone's so upset about. It was our first vacation in 3 years, and we paid for it with a business loan. Aunt Linda stares at her in disbelief. So you thought it was okay to lie to all of us? I thought my family would understand that cash flow isn't the same as net worth. Mom's voice is getting shrill. We're asset rich but cash poor. Those buildings generate income, but every penny goes back into maintenance and mortgage payments. Dennis nods eagerly, like he's been waiting for this moment. She's right. Real estate investment isn't just free money. We've been living on credit cards for months between tenant turnovers and unexpected repairs. I flip through Patricia's financial analysis until I find what I'm looking for. Mom, your bank records show regular deposits of over $30,000 a month in rental income. Gross income, Tyler. Do you have any idea what our expenses are? Actually, yes. I pull out another sheet. According to public records, your mortgage payments total about $18,000 monthly across all 4 properties. Add maintenance, taxes, insurance, you're still clearing at least $8,000 a month in profit. That's more than I make at my job. The numbers hit the crowd like a slap. $8,000 in monthly profit while asking her father for his deceased wife's life insurance money. Cousin Sarah's husband Jake, who's been quiet until now, suddenly speaks up. Wait. Margaret, didn't you ask Sarah and me for $2,000 last fall? Said you couldn't make payroll for Dennis's construction crew. Dennis shifts uncomfortably. That was a temporary cash flow issue. We took out a personal loan to help you, Jake continues, his voice getting louder. Heard our credit score, but we thought family came first. How many people here damaged their own finances to help mom? I ask the room. Hands start going up. Aunt Carol, borrowed against my 401k. Cousin Jennifer, maxed out a credit card. Even young cousin Tommy, just 22, raises his hand sheepishly, skipped a semester of college because I gave her my tuition money for emergency surgery. What emergency surgery? Grandpa Joe demands. Tommy looks mortified. Aunt Maggie said she needed gallbladder surgery but couldn't afford it. This was right after Dennis supposedly got laid off. I check my phone calendar. Tommy, what month was this? February 2023. Dennis, I say, turning to my stepfather, in February 2023, weren't you featured in the Chamber of Commerce newsletter for completing the biggest renovation project in the city? Dennis's face goes white. The same month he was supposedly unemployed and mom needed emergency surgery, he was being publicly celebrated for a 6-figure construction contract. Uncle Mike suddenly stands up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. That's it. I'm calling the police. Mike, no, mom starts. No, Margaret. This isn't just family drama anymore. You've committed fraud. Wire fraud, mail fraud, hell, you probably owe taxes on all that unreported gift income from family members. The mention of taxes makes Dennis go even paler, and I realize Uncle Mike has hit on something they haven't considered. If the IRS gets involved, this becomes infinitely worse for them. Everyone needs to document what they gave her and when, Uncle Mike continues, switching into accountant mode. This is evidence in a criminal case now. Mom looks around the room desperately, but the faces staring back at her have hardened. These aren't just disappointed relatives anymore, they're victims. Tyler, she says, her voice breaking, please. You're my son. For the first time all day, I feel something crack in my chest. Despite everything, she's still my mom. But then I remember Jessica's voice on the phone. 5 years of ramen dinners. The life I've been putting off. No, Mom. I was your ATM. The police arrive 23 minutes after Uncle Mike's call, their presence turning our family reunion into what looks like a crime scene. Officer Martinez and Officer Chen, no relation to Mom, thankfully, walk into a community center full of shell-shocked relatives clutching financial documents like evidence bags. Who made the complaint? Officer Martinez asks, surveying the chaos of overturned chairs and scattered bank statements. Uncle Mike steps forward, his accounting firm business card already in hand. I did. We have documented evidence of systematic fraud involving multiple victims and approximately $80,000. Mom shoots me a look that could kill. Tyler, please tell them this is a family misunderstanding. But before I can respond, Grandpa Joe's wheelchair rolls forward. At 87, he moves slowly, but his voice carries the weight of nearly 9 decades when he speaks. Officer, that woman took $5,000 from me using her dying grandmother's name. His hands shake as he points at Mom. Money for my deceased wife's life insurance. Money I needed for my own funeral expenses. The officers exchange glances. Elder fraud carries serious penalties, and they know it. Officer Chen pulls out her notebook. Sir, can you provide documentation of this transaction? Grandpa Joe produces a crumpled check stub from his wallet, photocopied bank statements that Aunt Linda apparently helped him print yesterday. Margaret called me crying, said she was being evicted and Tyler was already helping as much as he could. Said she'd pay me back in 30 days. When was this, sir? October 15th, 2022. Grandpa Joe's memory is sharp as ever. Same week I saw pictures on Facebook of her at some fancy restaurant celebrating buying their third building. Officer Martinez turns to Mom. Ma'am, can you explain the discrepancy? Mom's composure finally cracks completely. It's not what it looks like. Yes, we own properties, but we have expenses. Mom, stop talking, I interrupt. Seriously. You need a lawyer. But she's in full panic mode now. The buildings are mortgaged. We're not actually rich. Every dollar Tyler sent went to legitimate expenses. Officer Chen looks up from her notes. Tyler, I assume you're the son. Can you walk us through your understanding of these transactions? I hand her my manila folder, now somewhat the worse for wear. I've been sending my mother $1,200 monthly for 5 years, thinking I was helping her pay rent. 3 days ago I discovered she owns the building, plus 3 others worth nearly $3 million combined. And you were unaware of her property ownership? Completely. She's been calling me monthly, sometimes crying, describing potential evictions, utility shutoffs, food insecurity. Meanwhile she's been running a successful property management business and taking luxury vacations. Officer Martinez is photographing documents with his phone. Ma'am, did you explicitly tell your son these payments were for rent on a property you owned? Dennis grabs Mom's arm. Maggie, don't answer that without. She recorded herself. Cousin Derek suddenly blurts out. Aunt Maggie, remember last Christmas when you made that video thanking Tyler for keeping you housed? You posted it on Facebook. My stomach drops. I'd completely forgotten about Mom's Christmas video, a tearful 3-minute thank you message she recorded and posted publicly, talking about how grateful she was that her wonderful son Tyler was helping her stay in her apartment. Derek's already pulling it up on his phone. Here, listen to this part. I don't know what I'd do without Tyler's help paying my landlord every month. Some children abandon their parents, but not my Tyler. The officers lean in to listen. Mom's voice from the video is shaky and emotional. My landlord raised the rent again, but Tyler never hesitates to help. He's sacrificing his own dreams to keep his mother from being homeless. Officer Chen looks up from the phone. Ma'am, is this your voice in the video? Mom nods miserably. And at the time you recorded this, you were the landlord of the property in question? Another nod. So when you reference paying your landlord, you're describing your son sending you money to pay yourself? The legal implications hang in the air like smoke. This isn't just family drama anymore, it's documented fraud with a digital trail. Officer Martinez closes his notebook. Ma'am, we're going to need you and your husband to come to the station for questioning. You have the right to remain silent. As Mom gets read her rights in front of our entire family, I realize the reunion isn't just over. It's evidence now. The police station waiting room smells like disinfectant and regret. It's 6:47 p.m., 3 hours after Mom and Dennis were taken in for questioning, and half my family is still here. We've transformed from reunion attendees into something resembling a victim support group. Aunt Linda keeps pacing by the vending machines, muttering about the $400 she borrowed from her Christmas fund. Cousin Jennifer hasn't looked up from her phone in an hour, she's been screenshotting every financial transaction she can find. Uncle Mike has appointed himself unofficial coordinator, collecting everyone's documentation in a manila envelope that's growing thicker by the minute. My phone buzzes. Patricia Manning, my lawyer. Tyler. I've been following the police reports. Are you at the station? Yeah. They've been questioning Mom and Dennis for 3 hours. Good. I've been making calls. The FBI might get involved. Wire fraud across state lines puts this in federal territory. Also, I found something interesting about their business loan applications. My stomach clenches. What kind of something? They listed you as a business partner on their loan applications for buildings 3 and 4. Used your income and credit score to qualify for better rates. The waiting room suddenly feels too small. They used my credit without my knowledge. It looks that way. M&D Properties claimed you were a silent investor contributing $1,200 monthly to their business expansion. The banks approved larger loans based partly on your financial stability. Aunt Carol, who's been eavesdropping, gasps. Tyler, that means I'm potentially liable for their business debts, I finish. If they default on those mortgages, the banks could come after me. Patricia's voice gets sharper. How much do you think your family gave them total? I look around the waiting room. Uncle Mike's been tallying everything. Mike, what's our current count? Uncle Mike looks up from his envelope of horrors. Based on what people have admitted to so far, we're at approximately $37,000 from family members. But Tyler, that's just who was at the reunion. Your mom has siblings in 3 other states. The scope keeps expanding. Mom didn't just scam our local family, she's been running a nationwide operation targeting every relative who cares about her. Patricia, can you run a credit check on me? I need to know if they've opened anything else in my name. Already on it. I'll have preliminary results by tomorrow morning. I hang up and notice Detective Rodriguez approaching our group. She's the lead investigator, a sharp-eyed woman who's been taking statements all afternoon. Tyler Chin. Can I speak with you privately? We move to a quieter corner of the waiting room. Your mother wants to make a deal. What kind of deal? Full confession in exchange for restitution and probation. She's claiming this was a cash flow management issue that got out of hand, not intentional fraud. I almost laugh. Cash flow management. Detective, she recorded a video thanking me for paying her landlord while she was the landlord. I know. That video is actually our strongest evidence. But here's the thing, if we pursue federal charges, this case could take years to resolve. Your family might never see their money back. Across the waiting room, Grandpa Joe is slumped in his wheelchair, looking every one of his 87 years. The $5,000 he gave Mom represents months of his limited income. What exactly is she offering? Liquidation of one property to pay back family members, plus a payment plan for the remainder. She keeps the other buildings, but everything gets monitored by a court-appointed financial manager. And if I say no? Federal prosecution, potential prison time, but your family's money gets tied up in litigation for years while their assets get frozen. My phone buzzes again. This time it's a number I don't recognize. Tyler. This is your Aunt Susan in Portland. Susan. Mom's sister, who I haven't spoken to in 5 years. Derek called me about what happened today. Tyler, I need to tell you something about last summer. My heart sinks. How much? $1,500. Margaret said you'd been helping her, but she needed surgery and didn't want to burden you more. I overnight a cashier's check. $1,500 more. From Oregon. While I was eating generic cereal for breakfast and putting off dental work because I couldn't afford it. Susan, were there other relatives she contacted? Your Uncle Paul in Arizona sent $3,000. Cousin Marie in Texas sent $800. Tyler, she called everyone, said you were being so generous but couldn't cover everything alone. I'm doing math again, and the numbers are staggering. If Mom hit family across multiple states the way she hit local relatives, we could be looking at 6 figures in total fraud. Detective Rodriguez is watching my face change. Bad news? The worst. Detective, I need to know, when does your offer expire? Your mother's being arraigned tomorrow morning. Decide by then. But as I look at my exhausted family scattered around this waiting room, I realize the decision isn't just about money anymore. It's about whether justice means punishment or just getting our lives back. I'm staring at the ceiling of my apartment at 3:17 a.m., unable to sleep for the 4th night in a row. Tomorrow is Mom's arraignment, and I still haven't decided whether to accept her plea deal or let the federal prosecutors destroy her completely. My phone has been ringing non-stop since news of the arrests hit social media. Apparently, Derek posted about the reunion drama on Facebook before anyone could stop him, and now it's spreading through our extended family like wildfire. Every call brings another victim, another story, another $1,000 I never knew about. The latest was cousin Rachel from Michigan, who called at midnight crying about the $2,200 she wire transferred last spring when Mom claimed Dennis had been hospitalized after a construction accident. Rachel's a nurse working double shifts to pay off student loans, and she borrowed money from her hospital's credit union to help with Mom's medical emergency. The same month Mom and Dennis were featured in the local newspaper's Business Success Stories section. I've been keeping a running tally on my laptop. 43 family members across 7 states have now admitted to sending money. The total is sitting at $127,000, nearly double my own losses. But Patricia thinks there are more victims who haven't come forward yet, either out of embarrassment or because they don't know what happened at the reunion. At 3:45 a.m., I make a decision that will probably haunt me forever. I call Detective Rodriguez's direct line. Detective? It's Tyler Chin. I decided about the plea deal. Tyler, it's 4 in the morning. I know. I can't sleep. I've been thinking about my grandfather, about cousin Rachel working extra shifts she can't handle, about all the people who sacrificed their own financial security because they trusted my mother. And I want to counteroffer. Full restitution to every victim, not just local family. All 4 properties liquidated, not just one. And I want her to publicly admit what she did, something formal that victims can use if they need to explain damaged credit or financial problems to their banks. Detective Rodriguez is quiet for a long moment. Tyler, that would essentially bankrupt them. Good. They bankrupted 43 other people first. Your mother won't agree to lose everything. Then we go federal. Detective, I've been doing research tonight. Wire fraud across state lines, using false pretenses to obtain money from elderly victims, potential identity theft if they really use my credit without permission, we're looking at decades in prison. You'd send your own mother to federal prison? The question hits me like a physical blow. Would I? Can I actually follow through on destroying the woman who taught me to ride a bike and stayed up all night when I had pneumonia at age 7? Detective, can I ask you something? In your experience, do people like this ever really stop? What do you mean? If Mom gets probation and keeps 3 buildings, how long before she's back to manipulating people? Maybe not family this time, but tenants, business partners, someone. Is this who she is now, or just something she fell into? Detective Rodriguez sighs. Tyler, I've been working financial crimes for 8 years. People who run long-term emotional manipulation schemes, they don't usually reform. The skills that let your mother lie to you for 5 years while looking you in the eye don't just disappear because she got caught. The truth settles in my stomach like a stone. This isn't about one bad decision that spiraled out of control. Mom has become someone who can cry on command while stealing from her own father. Someone who can post videos about my generosity while planning her next property purchase with my money. Counteroffer stands, detective. Full restitution, full liquidation, public admission. And if she refuses? I look at the photo on my nightstand, Mom and me at my college graduation, both grinning at the camera. I was so proud that day to introduce her to my professors, to show off the woman who'd supported my dreams. Now I know she was already planning how to profit from those dreams. Then we burn it all down. The arraignment is at 9 a.m., and I'm sitting in my car outside the courthouse at 8:15, watching Mom and Dennis walk up the steps with their lawyer. Even from a distance, I can see that Mom's lost weight. Her navy blue dress, probably the same expensive one from the reunion, hangs loose on her frame. My phone buzzes. Patricia Manning. Tyler, we have a problem. I got your credit report back. My stomach drops. How bad? They didn't just list you as a business partner on loan applications. They opened a business credit card in your name in 2021. M&D Properties corporate account, with you as the primary cardholder. The courthouse steps blur for a second. How much debt? $47,000. Currently in good standing because they've been making payments, but Tyler, you're legally responsible for every penny. I grip the steering wheel until my knuckles go white. $47,000 on top of everything else. Patricia, this changes the plea negotiation, doesn't it? Completely. Identity theft for financial gain is a federal felony. We're not just talking about wire fraud anymore, this is full-scale identity fraud. Your mother could be looking at 15 to 20 years. Through my windshield, I watch Mom pause at the courthouse entrance, one hand on Dennis's arm for support. She looks fragile, defeated. Nothing like the confident businesswoman from the reunion photos. There's more, Patricia continues. I had our investigator run a deeper background check. Tyler, your mother has been doing this for longer than 5 years. What do you mean? Court records show she filed for bankruptcy in 2016, right before she started asking you for money. Discharged about $60,000 in credit card debt. The timeline suggests she moved from traditional credit fraud to family exploitation when her credit got destroyed. 2016, the year Mom called crying about her divorce settlement running out, about struggling to make ends meet as a newly single woman. The year I felt so guilty about moving across town for my new job that I offered to help with her expenses. Patricia, are you telling me this was planned from the beginning? It looks that way. The business credit card was opened 6 months after you started sending regular payments. Like she was using your good credit to expand operations once she knew you were a reliable income source. A text from Uncle Mike interrupts my call. Tyler, your Aunt Betty from Florida just called. She wire transferred $3,800 last Christmas. Says Margaret told her you'd been helping but couldn't cover holiday expenses. Aunt Betty. Mom's 74-year-old sister who lives on Social Security and a tiny pension from her deceased husband's job at the post office. $3,800 she probably couldn't afford to give. Patricia, I need to go. The hearing's starting. Tyler, wait. Given the credit card fraud, the plea deal is off the table. This is going federal regardless now. I hang up and walk toward the courthouse, my legs feeling disconnected from my body. Inside the building, I spot familiar faces from the reunion scattered across the gallery. Uncle Mike sitting with Grandpa Joe. Aunt Linda dabbing her eyes with tissues. Cousin Jennifer clutching a folder of bank statements. Mom's lawyer, a tired-looking man in an ill-fitting suit, is shuffling papers at the defendant's table. When Mom turns around to scan the gallery, her eyes find mine immediately. For just a second, her mask slips. I see genuine fear there, mixed with something that might be regret. She mouths, "I'm sorry," across the courtroom. But then I think about Aunt Betty's Social Security checks. About the credit card debt I didn't know existed. About 5 years of believing I was helping when I was actually being harvested. I pull out my phone and text Detective Rodriguez, credit card fraud confirmed. No deal. Throw everything at her. Judge Morrison enters, and everyone rises. As Mom stands to face the charges, I realize this is the last time I'll ever see her as my mother. After today, she'll just be Margaret Chin, defendant. The judge's gavel echoes through the courtroom like a gunshot. The defendant will rise for sentencing. It's been 4 months since the reunion, 3 months since Mom's federal trial began, and today it all ends. I'm sitting in the front row of the gallery, surrounded by 47 family members who flew in from across the country to watch justice finally arrive. Margaret Chin, Judge Morrison's voice cuts through the silence. You have been found guilty on 14 counts of wire fraud, 6 counts of identity theft, and 3 counts of elder financial abuse. The total amount of documented theft exceeds $230,000, victimizing 47 members of your own family across multiple states. $230,000. The final tally was even worse than we calculated. Mom had been systematically targeting relatives for over 8 years, not 5. The FBI found evidence of fraud dating back to 2016, including elderly cousins I'd never even met who sent their Christmas money to help poor Margaret and her struggling son Tyler. Before I impose sentence, the judge continues, I want to address the particular cruelty of this case. Mrs. Chen, you didn't just steal money from your victims. You stole their peace of mind, their financial security, and their ability to trust family. You used the most sacred bond, that between a mother and child, as a weapon of financial exploitation. Mom is crying silently at the defendant's table. Real tears this time, not the performed ones from our phone calls. Dennis sits beside her, his construction business already bankrupted by the legal fees and asset seizures. Judge Morrison picks up a thick folder. The court has received victim impact statements from 31 family members. I'm going to read a few excerpts. My stomach clenches. I know what's coming. From Joseph Chin, age 87, I gave my daughter $5,000 for my deceased wife's life insurance policy because I believed she was facing eviction. That money was meant for my funeral expenses. Now I worry I'll burden my family with costs I could have covered myself. Grandpa Joe wipes his eyes with a handkerchief. The $5,000 he lost forced him to move to assisted living 2 months ago because he couldn't afford his medications and rent anymore. From Rachel Martinez in Michigan, I borrowed $3,000 from my hospital's credit union, believing my cousin needed emergency surgery. The loan payments mean I'm working extra shifts that are destroying my health. I trusted family, and that trust nearly broke me financially. The judge flips through more pages. From Tyler Chin, my mother stole 5 years of my life and $72,000 I'll never recover. But worse than the money is knowing that every conversation, every holiday, every "I love you" was calculated to maintain access to my bank account. I will never be able to trust unconditionally again, and that loss is worth more than any dollar amount. Mom's shoulders are shaking now. Part of me, some stupid, stubborn part, still wants to comfort her. But then I remember the credit card debt, the business loans taken out in my name, the systematic way she mined our family for cash while playing successful businesswoman to the outside world. Margaret Chin, Judge Morrison says, closing the folder, I hereby sentence you to 8 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. You will make full restitution to all victims, $230,000 plus interest. All remaining properties will be liquidated immediately to fund victim compensation. 8 years. Mom will be 68 when she gets out. Dennis Chen, as a co-conspirator, you are sentenced to 3 years in federal prison and supervised probation. Your construction business assets will also be liquidated for victim restitution. The gavel falls one final time. As the bailiffs lead Mom away in handcuffs, she turns back toward the gallery one last time. Our eyes meet across the courtroom, and I see her mouth the words, "I'm sorry," again. But sorry doesn't give Grandpa Joe his medication money back. Sorry doesn't undo Cousin Rachel's health problems from working extra shifts. Sorry doesn't return 5 years of my life I spent eating ramen while funding her real estate empire. I don't nod. I don't smile. I just watch her disappear through the side door. Outside the courthouse, Uncle Mike hands me a check for $23,847, my portion of the first asset liquidation. It's not everything I lost, but it's a start. So what now? Aunt Linda asks. I look around at my family, my real family, the people who sacrificed for each other out of love, not calculation. Now we go home. And we remember that trust is earned, not owed. For the first time in 5 years, I'm free.